Hello, welcome to Entirely English, and today's video is on phrases that we have from telephones. I did promise you a couple of videos ago that I would do this, so keeping my promise, we're going to be looking at words and phrases that relate to old telephones that we still use now, even though they don't have a physical connection to the modern telephones, smartphones, and the mobiles. So the first one we're going to look at, and I think everybody is pretty much aware of this, is to dial a number. So you're working in the kitchen and maybe you're under the sink and you ask your wife, could you please dial Tom? And it means to call them on the phone, to press in their numbers on the telephone. This goes back to the old rotary telephones, which had dials. A dial is generally a circular display showing numbers that represent like water pressure, gas pressure, or they can be knobs that you turn, like on your water heater, you turn the dial to get a higher temperature. And on the old telephones, what they call the rotary telephones, they had a dial on the face, which was a circle of plastic, or the very old phones, it was Bakelite or metal, which had circular holes in it with the numbers from 0 through to 1. And to call somebody, you would put your finger in the hole like the 1 and you'd turn the dial to the stop, release it, and then 6 to the dial, the stop. And that would activate a relay. In fact, in the old phones, you would dial the number and you'd be put through to an operator and they would connect you. We'll come back to that in a moment. So to dial somebody's number was literally, physically, to turn this circular device on the front of the telephone. But we still use it now, even though our phones have touch screens, or if you've got a slightly older mobile phone, they have the press buttons. In some hotels, they might have had a notice saying, dial 0 for the switchboard, or dial 0 for the operator. So you get the operator.
Parkside General Hospital, please.
Welbeck 2434. Medical counter, please. I said medical counter.
And this links us into the next phrase, which is to be put through to somebody. So you dial the operator, maybe of a company, you want to talk to, maybe you phone a newspaper and you want to talk to the editor. You call the newspaper, you get through to an operator who had a switchboard. It's like a big board with lots of sockets in it. And you'd ask to be put through to the editor. And they would take a wire that connected to the editor's phone and put it in a socket next to the socket where they've inserted your wire.
Operator, how may I direct your call?
Constable.
And it would actually put you through the entire building to the editor's phone. You can also say, could you connect me, because you're connecting these two wires.
Inspector, Dr. James from the hospital wants to speak to you.
Right, put him through. Raglan speaking.
So nowadays you might phone your internet service provider because you have a fault and they'll say, how can I help you? And you say, put me through to the fault reporting department. Or, as is common now, you get this automated, horrible menu system. And I think nowadays they say, press 1 to talk to billings, press 1 for billing, press 2 for faults. And a while ago it said, press 1 to be connected to billing, press 2 to be connected to faults. So it's still in there. And similarly, when we talk about connecting, when you connect two wires, you engage them. They are engaged. So when you call that operator and ask to be put through to the editor, she might say, that line is already engaged. It means there's another wire already in the socket for that phone. They're already connected to somebody. And then with direct calls, when the operator was no longer needed and we had these relay stations, automatic switching systems, the switching system would give a buzzing sound to indicate the line was engaged. And so engaged became this word we use to mean that somebody was busy. You do it on your mobile phone, you call somebody and you get the busy tone. So I called John on my smartphone, but he was engaged. It means he was already talking to somebody. And that operator might ask you to hold the line being this cable which physically connected you across the country to their building. Hold the line meant don't hang up. Maintain this connection, because if you hang up, you're going to be connected through another line to them, through all the relays. So hold the line meant wait. And we still say it now. You want to talk to Martin? Hold the line. Martin, somebody on the phone for you. Hold the line. No physical line on mobile phones, but we still use it. And we use the phrase to be put on hold from the same origin. Hold the line, please. She's put me on hold, meaning she's asked me to hold the line. And using this phrase, lines, in the old days, you might be talking, say, to the president. And he says, hold on a moment, I've got somebody on my other line. And he picks up another phone because that's connected by a separate cable. Nowadays, we have call waiting, but people will still say, oh, could you hold the line? I've got to talk to my dad. Hi, Dad, what is it? And it's hold the line, wait. And the other line, I've got somebody on the other line. So no physical lines, but we're still using it. Please, I've got somebody on the other line. I'll call you back later. And this is a really interesting one, to hang up. Nowadays on the phones it says end, but we still say, I hung up. Hang up the phone. We need to have dinner now. And this goes right back to the early phones, which were these box type things on the wall, maybe in the hallway of a house. And the speaker was in the box and the earpiece was on a cradle, and you picked it up and you talked, and then you hung it up at the end. Hung up the earpiece to end the call. So literally you hung up, and we still use it. We used it even with the rotary phones. You hang up, but there's no hanging. You're just sitting in the cradle and you hang up a call on your mobile phone. He hung up on me. There's no hanging up, but it was still using that phrase. And then the opposite is to pick up a call. You go to the phone that's ringing and you pick up the receiver and you pick up the call. I called John yesterday, but he didn't pick up. Maybe we can say he's picking up the phone from the table, but it comes from this picking up the earpiece and hanging up the earpiece. And I just mentioned there ringing as well. And we use ring as a verb because the old phones had real bells in them. When you called, it was like the old style alarm clock. There was a little thing that went ding, 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 ding. So the phone rang.
Hello?
Hello, John.
And then we said to ring somebody became part of the language, to the verb to ring somebody. And we still use it now, even though we have different bits of music on our phone. We have those annoying, amusing sounds on the phone, but we still say to ring somebody. My phone is ringing. And then there's the phrase, which is linked to telephones and other types of slot machines where you put a penny in a slot. So it could be like the old one-armed bandits, or your gas meter. You put a penny years ago, put a penny in the slot to activate the gas. With the old telephone boxes, you'd put a penny in the machine and wait for it to drop before you dialed your number or dialed the operator. So you wait for the penny to drop. Sometimes it would stick and you'd have to wait a while for the penny to drop. And this phrase, the penny dropped, means nowadays somebody realized something. Okay, we're not talking about actual phone connection here. It's not connected to the mobile phone, but it's a phrase we use from telephones. And other slot-type machines operating by pennies. And the penny dropped means somebody finally realized something. You're explaining something to somebody, and they go, oh, after about 5 minutes, you go, the penny's dropped. And another phrase like that, which comes from the old phones, not so much connected to the mobile phones these days because we have good systems of connection, but there is a phrase, to get your wires crossed. There's some school of thought that believe this is about operators connecting you from your call to the wrong socket, saying you then connected to the wrong person and your conversation is confusing. Don't see that really, because you'd say, hi, it's John. Who's John? You know immediately. I believe the cables or the wires for the telephones stretched across the town, across the country in the air. And sometimes those cables would be blown by the wind and they would actually touch and cross. And because the insulation wasn't so good, you would find that your conversation is coming down your cable, and instead of going to the other person you're speaking to, would then be diverted to a third party, and suddenly you don't know what's happening. The conversation is very confusing. So when you get your wires crossed, it means you and the person you're talking to are talking about different things. Perhaps you started a conversation about something, American politics, and then you see your dog is doing this funny trick, and you say, he's great, isn't he? And the other person thinks you're talking about Donald Trump. They're like, what? Are you crazy? No, he's wonderful. Amazing things he does. Look at his wonderful hair. His hair? That's bizarre. You've got your wires crossed. You're talking about different things. Okay? So those are the main ones that come from telephones. Ones we still use in relation to telephones: dialing, ringing, calling, being put through. Phrases that have come from telephones that we use in other situations to get your wires crossed and the penny dropped. So it's very interesting how some of these words and phrases from old technology are still in use in our modern day, even though the use of them is different because the physical aspects are different. If you can think of any others, pop them in the comments, let me know. If you like this, please click the like button. If you want to stay up to date with our videos, click subscribe. And if you know anybody who is studying English or wants to improve their vocabulary, then do please click the share button. Do come back to the next video. See you then. Bye-bye.